Steve Kanter here to my right, and basically he's going to talk about for the next 10 minutes how to make your life much, much more speedy and efficient in your NLE world, and how to automate some things. He's also going to show you the world premiere of a lot of things that he's just developed over the last few days. So please welcome Steve Kanter.
Thanks, Michael.
And you?
I guess I should turn on the mic.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so what I'm going to show are a couple of things that I actually showed in a recent webinar for Moviola.com. I think the initial title was Advanced Multi-Platform Workflows, and I think 6 people signed up, and then we retitled it Media Management and Asset Management on a Budget, and like 180 people signed up. So you put that budget in there, people get a lot more excited. So let me start off by just showing you what a couple of these little apps are that I use. This came about through a lot of doing the same repetitive task over and over and over again, and I didn't really like to do that. So one of those repetitive tasks is when you create a project, maybe you have a series of folders or bins that you like to have in each project. I have one of the projects for one of my recent UCLA classes, and you can see, despite the fact that I taught them how to organize, it's all very disorganized with a bunch of different bins and everything. But if you have like a common structure that you like, I know a lot of Final Cut editors were enamored of maybe creating certain folder structures on the OS level. And then you can actually just drag these folders into Final Cut, and the folders become bins, and you can kind of replicate a structure that way. But you can't really do that in Avid. In Avid, you have to create the bins inside the app, or so you would think. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just close this Avid project here and just create a new one. Let's call it whatever. All right, now, whenever you create a new project, Avid creates one bin for you automatically. And I'm going to use that bin to actually locate the project by right-clicking on the bin icon and choosing Reveal File. It'll just open the Avid project for me. And this is it, whatever. And I'm going to go ahead and drag it and drop it onto one of my 2 icons, either Create Bins or Create Folders. And let me just arrange this so you can see how it works. So if I want to create bins according to my little template, I'll just use the little app. You can select the folder and click that. You could also drag it down into the dock and put it down there. But you'll notice it has now created the bin structure that I wanted it to create. Let me maybe just delete all those. All right, again, on the OS level, it kind of mirrors that. Let's try doing it this way. I shall just click the Create Folders button. And in this case, I wanted to have a project organized with one folder for sequences. There's my current and my older cuts bin, and then another folder. And you can see, once again, it has replicated that inside the Avid. All right, now this is all dependent on actually having a project template that you create ahead of time. The one that you're seeing right here is the one included that I just created. It's kind of generic audio, music, sound effects. But if you have a certain kind of repeating structure that you need to use, and I originally developed this for some editors at The Tonight Show who were linear tape-to-tape editors with like 3 years left before they retired, so they didn't really want to learn everything about the Avid. Automating a lot of their repetitive tasks, especially project creation, kind of makes it a little bit easier. So before I move on to the next couple of apps, that's pretty much the deal with these 2. You've got either Create Bins or Create Folders. And any questions about what that is?
How do I get that?
I will tell you, there's 2 ways to get it. Right now, you can get them from, I can't get the web to work here. If you go to Moviola.com, the most recent webinar I did, the on-demand version of Media and Asset Management on a Budget, it is available right now, and when you get the on-demand version, all these apps come for free with the on-demand version. Very shortly, I'm going to have these things for sale up on my website. I'm still toying with the price. It's certainly going to be under $5, if not less than that. So I'm just kind of building everything right now. If you take note of my email address, which is steve@editdog.com, or you check out editdog.com on the net, this will be available in the next couple days. Another thing I did, because I'm a editor and a trainer that has to constantly stay on top of different changes in the NLE world. So when Final Cut 10 came out and I installed it, I noticed that in the applications folder, it had actually put all of the Final Cut Studio applications into a little folder called Final Cut Studio. I'm trying to show that to you right there. And then when you're running Final Cut 10, all the Final Cut 7 apps are supposed to be quarantined inside that Final Cut Studio folder. And then when you want to run Final Cut 7 or any of its apps, you have to take those out of their quarantined folder and put them at the root of the applications folder and put the Final Cut 10 apps in their own quarantine folder. And essentially I created a couple of apps that would automate this process. So right now I'm set up to use Final Cut 7, as you can see, but if I double click the Use Final Cut 10 app, you're going to notice it's going to take all of these red labeled Final Cut apps and put them in the Final Cut Studio folder. Then it takes all the Final Cut 10 apps, puts them at the root, launches Final Cut 10 for you, and then, you know, oops, not that one. I don't know all the expose shortcuts, sorry. I guess I'll just minimize all these. And you can even have a desktop background activate so that it's really obvious whether you're running Final Cut 7 or Final Cut 10 at the time. So you can see it's launching Final Cut 10. Here's a little fun bug. The Final Cut 7 icon has not updated yet. So this is actually the Final Cut 10 app in the dock, but it's using the old icon. And then when you do whatever you have to do with Final Cut 10, you decide you want to go back to Final Cut 7. It's just a simple matter of, you know, quitting Final Cut and going back to that app. And these apps can be in the Finder window like I've put them, or you could even put them in the dock. Since I made the icons identical to the actual app itself, you could put them in the dock instead of the application so that it's just like, oh, I'm going to launch Final Cut 10. I'll click in the dock, or I'm going to launch Final Cut 7. I'll click that in the dock, and then that's what will launch Final Cut 7 or 10. But the thing that I'm most proud of, or that I use the most, is something that enables us to take advantage of the really amazing features in Spotlight and the Mac OS Finder. So not a lot of people know this, but if you do a search with Command F, this menu here, kind, you have a couple of options in here for metadata searches. I've enabled a couple of my favorites that are really helpful terms for searching. Your file extension, maybe you want to find all your MXF media versus your .mov media. You actually have terms, pixel width, pixel height, codecs. These are very specific to your video, right? Spotlight comment and file label are other things that you can get. I basically mapped all these to the menu by choosing the other command in the search. And then you get this big sheet of various metadata fields or search attributes you can search for. So if I type in, you know, most of the word for codec, I can see codec. And now I can do things like, all right, I'm going to look for some movie. Kind is it's a movie. And it's, 1280 by 720. So I just start typing in 1280 for pixel width, and then it automatically shows up in this search field. And because this is the Mac OS, I can look at these items in icon view. I can even make the icons really, really large so that I can get a better idea about what's in there. All right, you can use the space bar to preview things with the quick view window. And this is a lot faster on the OS level than it is in Final Cut. If you are working with Final Cut, of course, you can just drag and drop to get these things into your project because it is QuickTime based. Now, what my apps do, among other things, is allow you to add metadata tags to some of your work. So I did a bunch of outputs with Resolve for a particular project that needed to cut in Avid and Final Cut. So I have a bunch of MXF media, right? For this Highwaymen project, I have a bunch of ProRes ProRes 422, a bunch of ProRes proxy. I could just select everything and click my Spotlight Comments button. And it's just going to let me use one window to add a Spotlight comment for everything. So I can call this the name of the project. All right, and then click Continue. Now the fact that these things are scattered all over the system, maybe on different drives, maybe from different projects, all right, all I have to do is tag them with metadata. So I could say, look, this is also Highwayman. Whoops, I forgot. It's also MXF, so maybe I'll just give it a little tag, Avid or MXF or whatever it is that I want. So now when I do a search, I can turn on Spotlight Comment and look for things that match Avid. And I'm going to get up some of those things that I've labeled. I have a documentary called 14 Women that I tagged. There's all the various media files and folders and other things that have to do with this certain project. So what you can do with some of these things, whether you're using the color label command to give everything a color label, here's the opposite of those. This is my Remove Attributes button. That just allows you to remove any labels, any spotlight comments, now you'll notice the things just disappeared from the search because they don't match the search criteria anymore because I just removed the attributes that made them search or that made them match. But when you save some of these searches, you can see I have a bunch of saved smart searches. Here's all the MXF that hit the system within the last week. Here's all my 1920 by 1080. Here's my 1440 by 1080. So essentially, using a Finder window, you can turn the Finder into a little media asset management system. So typically, you have to spend a little bit more money, buy a Final Cut server if you, like challenges and obsolete software. Go ahead and get that. There's CatDV, Avid Interplay. There are a number of very expensive solutions for organizing your assets. But at their core, most media asset management software does a couple of things. It builds a catalog for you, enriched with metadata that you can search. You know what else does that? Spotlight. So why not let Apple do some work for you? All right, if you get some of my little apps, essentially you're just leveraging what Apple was smart enough or what their engineers were smart enough to design in the first place. And you can actually manage media for multiple NLEs and multiple systems using the Finder. So again, if you have any more interest in this, definitely check out my website, www.editdog.com.
So please thank Steve Kanter.